I want to spend just a few minutes talking about sources and citations as you work on your master's thesis. Levels of information, first of all, where you're usually going to attempt to go to primary sources. Now, if it's a passage, of course, you're going to go to the Bible. If you've studied Greek or Hebrew, you want to try to go to the Greek text for the New Testament, the Hebrew text for the Old Testament. If you haven't studied those languages, then you're probably going to avoid too much linguistic study, although you can go to commentaries that have commented upon those. And of course, you're going to be a little dependent upon what those commentators have to say. When doing that, you want to make sure they're of a scholarly nature. So primary sources, secondary sources like commentaries, those are perfectly okay. Reference materials, encyclopedias. If there's a choice between the two, you want to try to go first to the primary source. Then there's a secondary source, and then what we could call tertiary sources, that is, articles, websites, things like this that would maybe third row down. Again, if you can get a secondary source instead, that's better. And if you can go back to the primary source, that's better still. When you go, for example, to Wikipedia, a good Wikipedia article, you won't be citing the Wikipedia article. Instead, look down to the bottom of the article and it will list either primary sources or maybe some of the secondary sources from which that article was derived. Go to those sources. You see, you want to go back to the better sources. Next, I want to talk about the difference between popular magazines versus scholarly journals. I don't want to pick on two. Actually, both of these are good. Biblical Archaeology Review. I've been reading that for, I don't know, 30 or 40 years. It's a great magazine, but it's really a popular magazine, even though many of the articles are written by archaeologists. It's not really a scholarly journal in the same way that, and here I'm using the example of Journal of Evangelical Theological Society, so JETS for short. So you ask, what is the purpose of the journal slash magazine? Is it to entertain, or is it really of a scholarly scholarly nature? What is its audience? To whom is it written? Is it written to scholars, or is it just written to the sort of the person on the street? That's actually seen by the type of language. Well, now, when I say language, I'm just going to assume your native language, if mine is English. But you can speak English in sort of an everyday casual way, or you can speak English in a more scholarly setting. And does the source, either the journal or the magazine, which one does it use? What's the structure of it? What sort of illustrations does it use? If you read through Biblical Archaeology Review, they've got lots of great pictures, but then there's the occasional cartoon or something like that that's of a more non-serious nature. And that's a hint that it's a popular magazine, not a scholarly journal. And finally, who are the editors and what are their qualifications? Are they just folks that have maybe a degree in English, or actually are they studied in the field in which they are writing? Now, you're going to make use perhaps of websites. That's okay. You can find good information on websites, but you want to make sure they are of a scholarly nature. Are they accessible? Is it just sort of a general sort of thing? Or perhaps, for example, if you're a student at South Florida Bible College, you're going on Populi and you're going down and using the Galaxy material that's there. We'll talk about that more in a bit. If it's a website, is it current, or are the articles maybe 10 or 20 years old? What sort of accuracy do they have? Are they objective, or are they just merely giving one point of view? With what authority are they speaking? When I speak of the authority, the person writing the article, is he an expert in his field? He might have a doctorate, but is it a doctorate in that particular area of study? You see, there's nothing where somebody might have a doctorate in basket weaving, if there is such a thing, and he's commenting on biology. Well, but he doesn't have any standing in the area of biology. So is he speaking within his own professional or scholarly realm? What is the purpose or the appropriateness of the article? What's its scope and what level? Is it speaking to a high school level or maybe a college? Is it really a graduate level work in its scope and in its level? Next, we come to the question of databases. Now, as I said, you have the Populi feed access, both ProQuest, now that's more for counseling, but the Galaxy e-journals have a huge collection of journals, and they are searchable, and you can search for a particular topic, and it will bring you articles from a number of these different journals. They tend to be of a scholarly nature. They're designed for that purpose. You also, just on the internet, if you type in the words, you go to Google and then type in Google Scholar. A new browser will pop up, a Google Scholar browser, and now when you do your search, the quality of it is going to be more on a scholastic level. Now that actually might leave out quite a number of websites, and so it might leave out some that you don't want to necessarily leave out, but it's worthwhile to go and to look. Another thing you can do is the same thing, type in Google Books into Google, and it pops up with a new browser. This time they are published books. Now, some of the books are good, some are bad. You're going to have to, again, evaluate the quality of what you're finding. They will tend to be older, but not all of them are. And some are fairly recent, I've come across. Second, finally, there is something called WorldCat. It stands for World Catalog. It's a library catalog, and it lists books in not just books but other resources too in all of the libraries that are part of the system, all throughout the country, actually all throughout the world. And what you can do is you can go through there, you can find some of the things that might be available. Now, you can't check it out from that. But if you go to, for example, if you live in Broward County, you can go to the Broward County Library, speak to a librarian, and say you'd like to locate such and such a book through interlibrary loan. They will send for it, check it out, and bring it to their local library so that, and then they'll email you, and you'll have to show up and pick it up. Now, it might take a good 3 weeks, a month to get it to you, so you'll have to plan ahead for resources like this. But it is still doable. And when I was doing my doctorate, I made use of this, and I had books sent to me from all over the country. And of course, you have to be sure to return it because that's part of the system, but was able to borrow it and utilize it and then return it in a timely manner. And it saved me from having to purchase some of these things myself. I want to make known to you the Barna Research Group. This is a Christian group, and they conduct relevant surveys of Christian and social sort of patterns that are taking place today. So it's, if you want to find out, for example, what are how many people are leaving uh, church when they go to college. And the Barna Research Group might have actually done a study of that. They do their own studies, and then they make the results of those available to everybody. And so it is a recognized authority in that sort of field in finding relevant statistics, and so that can be very helpful in your research. Now, when it comes to library sources, you, of course, have the South Florida Bible College Theological Seminary Library. And if you go to the SFBC Full Destiny site, and you can reach that through Populi, you can also reach it through the website. Our catalog, our book catalog, and not just books, but also we do have some videos and DVDs and audio things like that too, but it's mostly books. Um, that is all online. Now, I'm not saying you can check the book out online, but you can see what's available in the library, and then you can ask to have it put on hold or go pick it up, and these things are available to you. Um, if you also you say, well, I used the book, but I didn't really get all of the the biographical details that I'm going to need. Remember, you're going to need to cite those. Now, a lot of those will be in the online catalog. Some of them might not be, depending, well, on a few variety factors. So don't just assume it will be. It's better to collect those on your own. But still, that they might be available there if you forgot to pick something up and you say, gee, I needed the specific data on the publication and so on. You can find that perhaps in that system. If you are a Broward County resident, another resource that is available to you is the Alvin Sherman Library. This is the library at Nova Southeastern University. And if you have a Broward County library card, then you can actually go and check books out through them. They might actually give you their own library card. I think they're doing that nowadays. But I've done that in the past. I've never been a student myself at Nova, but I've gone into their library and I've checked out materials, and that's freely available to you. It's part of being a Broward County resident. They have a sort of an agreement with Broward County, and they went in on the library together. And then, since I've already mentioned the Broward County Library, let me just mention that. Now, you think, well, a county library, they'd have a great selection. In the area of theology, they do have some, quite a few books, but it might not be the technical things that you would probably need. So this would be probably a little less value, but still is there, doesn't hurt. And as I said, you can use them for the interlibrary loan. And they won't just go to other local libraries or even county or city libraries. They will go to seminary libraries sometimes. There have been times when I have gone to them for the interlibrary loan, and they went to a seminary library and had that book mailed to me, and I was able to use it. And so it's a great resource to have at your fingertips. Finally, and we're going to just close on this humorous note, someone said, I'm giving up eating chocolate for a month. And then he corrects himself, sorry, bad punctuation. I'm giving up eating chocolate for a month. Make sure that your punctuation is correct. Just a little reminder, there should be no spelling and no punctuation errors. Just because you did spell check doesn't mean your paper is free of all errors. So remember, that's a requirement for your paper. You might want to think about getting a proofreader, maybe even hiring a professional proofreader. But whatever it takes, make sure that there are no errors in your final paper.